Jim?
Yes.
Let me grab this. Let's go to the files from the files. Moving stuff around. Sorry for all the noise here. I apologize.
That's because you've got files.
Tom Telly 2.
Oh, boy.
He's reemerged. This one in honor of the upcoming 75th birthday that you'll be celebrating. We're going to go from the files, Jim Cornette.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy. From the files, of course, of the incomparable Pro Wrestling Illustrated or Pro Wrestling Enterprises.
Pro Wrestling Enterprises.
It's the proper enterprise. Pro Wrestling Enterprises, the wrestling news files that you possess now from Norm Keitzer and his various publications.
That is correct. And of course, your file's an interesting one because there are photos here of your career and then correspondence from your time as a photographer. If I open the photo portion here, some photos you probably recognize of some you and the Midnight Express posed. Here's one of you guys at ringside. Midnight Express, Dennis Condrey, manager Jimmy Cornette, Bobby Eaton, March 13th, 1984, Lafayette, Louisiana.
Good heavens. Who was there to shoot pictures that night? I'm trying to think and remember.
I don't know. Let me move this. Here is Midnight Express. Jim Cornette with his Midnight Express photo copyright 1986, Paul Heyman.
That was in the Meadowlands. Were we sitting on a table?
No, you guys, I think you're standing up.
Standing up with the belts in front of a concrete wall.
Yes.
Yes.
And then here I have, and I think I may have asked you about these before, these apparently are Midnight Express 8x10s. You, Dennis, and Bobby, you're in a rather subdued suit. Bobby and Dennis on one knee with belts. Do you remember these? Midnight Express is all it says.
Is that's, and it's spelled MIDNITE.
That is correct, yes.
That was, I believe, taken by Alice Marie Nelson in Houston, Texas. We did a photo shoot very early on in our run there because Alice was the most regular, reputable photographer in the territory at that point. And they got like a bejesus bunch of those things printed up as publicity pictures. Not that they were selling a bunch on the merchandise tables, but I'm wondering if Norman Keitzer may have printed them for the office.
Huh, interesting.
And I'm wondering also if Jack Curtis may have his wife or girlfriend, I can't remember what their legal status was at the time, manned a lot of the merchandise stands. I'm wondering if Jack Curtis may have snapped some of those pictures at ringside.
Well, Jim, here I have the Smoky Mountain Wrestling souvenir brochure for wrestling fans and collectors. This would be from 92, because the last show listed here, wow, this is a great episode. 9/19/92. Title match, first ever meeting, Rock and Roll Express versus Heavenly Bodies. Non-title match, Horner versus Dirty White Boy, plus Stalker attacks Brian Lee in Wild Brawl. That's a great... This is my favorite, I think still my favorite period of time of Smoky Mountain Wrestling, the end of 92. The most interesting Brian Lee ever was. Just because if these people are attacking him, they must have a reason. They find it interesting.
Must have a reason. There's a goddamn reason that the son of a bitch, he's been hiding this all from us. Yes, and that was a production of Brian C. Hildebrand, a.k.a. Mark Curtis, who would do our merchandise brochures and etc. for us. And we were selling the TV shows on VHS tapes. You'd get 4 shows, the month's worth of shows on a tape, to people outside the territory that couldn't get the TVs.
Who manned the post office box? P.O. Box 1279, Morristown, Tennessee.
That would have been either me or Brian Hildebrand, depending on who went by there that day.
Let's see how well you remember the prices. How much was it to order a souvenir program?
Oh, God. $2.
$1 each.
Shit.
92. How much were t-shirts?
$12.
$10.
Son of a bitch.
Photos of the stars. 4x6, 5x7, 8x10. How much would a 4x6 photo of one of the Smoky Mountain Stars be in 92?
That's going to have to be $1 also, isn't it?
$2.
$2. Oh, we raised the prices. I think the 8x10s went up to $5, didn't they?
They are $5. 5x7 are $3. Baseball caps, $7. Videotapes.
And the baseball caps and T-shirts were being printed over at Horner's screen printing dodge he had over there.
Oh, by the way, also, any of the photos can be personally autographed by the star. Simply add $1 to each photo. Photo order over $15. All will be autographed for free. Volunteer.
Yeah,
slam.
we didn't get Our Lady takers on that. I think because they didn't consult me on that one. But I was like, you realize how much trouble that's going to be? They cut it out after that brochure you've got there.
Volunteer slam, $15, 90 minutes. Fire on the Mountain, 120 minutes, $17. It says only $17.
That's right.
Well, there we go.
Because see, we gave extra 30 minutes for only $2 more.
Here's more photos of you by Heyman. There's a lot of photos of you by Heyman in here. This is a photo.
He was always trying to suck up, wasn't he?
Here's the photo. You know this photo. It's from the session with the blue backdrop. It's Bobby on the left, you in the middle, Dennis on the right.
Yes.
This is for program 1154. It just says, be sure to show 2 men on left only. So I guess Dennis is being edited out of the program by that point. So let's go ahead. Like I said, a lot of photos. Here's one. I asked you the other day about a photo of you, the Dynasty of Champions, you, Adrian Street, Miss Linda, and Jesse Barr. Here's another one. I don't know if it's the same day because they look like they just worked and they're smiling and you're in a suit, a different one, but it says photo by Steve Curtis. Who's Steve
That's Brian.
That's Hildebrand?
It has to be. Because he, without seeing it, but he was down there at that period of time. He came down a time or two while I was managing that group to shoot pictures for various magazines. And if it's in front of my background, he'd been the only one there with me. I don't know where he got Steve instead of Mark, but who knows?
Here's a picture of you at ringside in Mid-South wearing the mask. And again, same handwriting as that one from March of 84. Manager of Midnight Express, Jim Cornette, wearing mask because he had his hair cut.
Yeah, it was over at Great Clips. It was a terrible haircut. So I wore a mask for about 3 weeks till it grew back out.
All right, well, let's open the files here. And there's a lot of correspondence with you and Jim Melby. Did you end up corresponding with him more than Norman Keitzer at some point?
Yeah, Jim was, I forget what title they gave each other, but Jim was more of the editor during those years that would actually be putting stuff together for the magazine or asking for things or whatever, whereas Norman was the head of the whole shebang, the whole empire.
Here's a letter to you from Jim Melby, December 30th, 1982. Hi, great hearing from you. Thanks for the check. The business, as always, is appreciated. I owe you some money now, but need your social security number to have the check issued to you. Please mail that info to me as soon as possible, so that you can get your loot. Would you call it a loot?
I don't know. I don't know if they ever reached an amount that I would call loot.
Jim Mitchell said to tell you hello. He seemed quite surprised that I was going to get a tape of him in action. I saw him work a spot show match against Steve-O a couple weeks ago. He seemed pretty green, did a lot of walking and talking, but took some good bumps.
Now, hold on. A lot of people out there are going to say, Jim Mitchell, the manager, the sinister minister, this was a guy from Minnesota that had come to Tennessee, and this was December of 82, so this was right after I got into business, and he came in right beforehand. I was still taking pictures. But his advanced publicity was Jim the Claw Mitchell, right? That's the way he was advertised. When he came out, he had a mask on. And what the... When have you ever
One time.
Heard of a guy, being advertised under his real name while he has a mask on. But the reason why they called him the Claw was because one of his hands, he had a birth defect. And instead of a hand, he wore a black glove and a sleeve up his forearm. And it is like he had like a thumb and a little finger and nothing else.
Oh, wow.
So he, in effect, had a claw. So Jim the Claw Mitchell.
Well, as I said here,
he didn't last long.
He was surprised to hear from you.
And sure he was.
The marks here hate him so much because his refereeing that he automatically got a lot of heat. The photos of Kamala and Lane and Kern are great. We will definitely use them in our magazine. By the way, when you send me my tape, can you dub that Buddy Rogers versus Pat O'Connor match on it also? I would really appreciate it. I told a couple of friends about it, and they are really anxious to see it. I've seen it a couple of times, years ago, and I felt that both men, for being great wrestlers, really didn't work that great of a bout. I'll be looking forward to hearing from you, your friend Jim.
I forgot Melby didn't like Rogers and O'Connor.
P.S. Oh, by the way, I need pictures of you with Broomfield and Barr. Howard Walsdorf wrote a story on you, but I need pictures to go along with the copy. At some point, I would like you to do a more in-depth story on yourself so we could use my byline on that. I will make sure that all your future stories are credited to a house pen name such as Larry Cranston. All right, let's break down some of this here. Harry Walsdorf, do you know who that is?
Howard Walsdorf.
Howard Walsdorf, excuse me.
He was a fan in Nashville that started, and for a brief time was around writing. He might be still around, so I don't want to insult him, but he fancied himself a very talented writer. And, it was a very flourishy, very flowery. But he was doing stuff for the wrestling news magazines at that time. And he'd even written me, he was another person. He would write a typewritten letter, like 6 pages. I don't know where these people got time. But I don't mean to be stepping on your toes. I know you cover the Tennessee area. I'm fine. Because I think he started out, Nick was still in business. And he was covering Nick's end in Nashville. And then I said, we're fine. We're fine. Believe me, I'm good. But he was just, a fan that started writing for the wrestling news.
Here I have a bill for you. Color separations for Cornette book number 6. $96 for Stan Lane, $136.80 for Bill Dundee, $114 for Jerry Lawler, plus $18.70 shipping, $365.50 minus $120 C letter, equaling $245.50. What can you say about that, the color separation bill?
See, that, again, because of the printing in those days, compared to, again, the book that I've got coming out, it's all digital now, and you just put it in the file or whatever. To reproduce the color pictures on the cover in those days, much less inside, which was all black and white, but you had to take the picture and have a color separation made for the printing process. And that's why, and depending on how big it was, they were at different costs. But that's why that Norman would often reprint color pictures of guys in programs or in different magazines that you'd seen before, because he didn't have to pay for a new separation. But because I was doing my championship wrestling magazine, I wanted the guys it had to be my photography, and I wanted the guys that were currently in the territory, and I wanted pictures that we hadn't sold on the table, on the merchandise stand, so that they'd be more likely to buy the magazine. So that's why I always got fresh ones made for the front and back cover of every magazine. And it cost, and then they took off $120 because they would then get to use them in their magazines, right? So they'd pay some of it. But it went from, they were selling 500 of the wrestling news each issue, to my magazine was selling 2,000 copies is the print run that we were getting. Because it was fresher shit.
I actually have here your hand-drawn, if you want to use the word draw, layout of issue number 6.
Layouts, yeah. I've got some of those too. That I put in rags, paper, and pens when I did the book on the Memphis merchandising. But yeah, I would just take a ruler and a pen, and this is the way I'd like it to look on the page. And then it looked a little bit better when they finished with it than it did a very little bit than when I drew it out.
Yeah, I got to go find the finished copy of this to see if all these names got on here, because you have a photo of Bill Dundee from a 5x7 print on the right. You have a small corner in the left-hand corner, Steve Kern picture, the logo at the top, issue 6, and then best issue ever. Jerry Lawler, Bill Dundee, Dutch Mantell, Outlaw Ron Bass, Steve Kern, Stan Lane, Terry Taylor, Carl Fergie, Kamala, Jimmy Hart, Sweet Brown Sugar, Bobby Eaton, Condrey, and Austin, and more. All on the cover.
And every single one of them was in there. That was all the guys in the territory at one time. All those names and more.
I'm going to go back in time. Let's go here now. This is 1979. Dear Jim, this is from July 20th, 79. $50. I have enclosed payment for your last package of material. As you are probably aware, starting with issue 54, we are doing only one edition of the Wrestling News. We will also be on newsstands shortly. Right now, Mrs. Jarrett and Mrs. Malone have decided to suspend doing special issues for their area until such time as attendance picks up again and makes it worthwhile. I used most of your last package in issue number 54.
But now, wait a minute. What was the date? What was the date on?
July 20th, 1979.
That actually...
That's when everything happened.
Business was picking up, but it had been crummy for the previous couple of months. That's when Robert Fuller went back to Knoxville. The talent went back with him. Jarrett brought Fargo back and did the Tupelo concession stand thing, but that was right about the time things started picking back up again.
Oh, actually, I just found here. This is interesting. So this, not to jump ahead, I'm going back and forth like a time machine. October 8th, 1980. This is, let me see, this is 4 pages. This is from Melby. Like you said, multiple typed up pages. Dear Jim, hi. It was real good talking to you on the phone on Monday. I will try to go over everything we talked about on the phone in this letter, so we both have a copy of it in writing. First of all, what you proposed was a monthly Memphis area wrestling magazine. It is to be 16 pages inside, with a wraparound glossy cover, such as the Madison Square Garden and AWA Picture Book type of magazines that we are already printing. I've enclosed a sample of each, so that you know exactly what I'm talking about. By that point, you would have already known, though, right? That you already seen those other programs?
Oh, yeah. Well, and that's the thing, is that I wasn't looking to do an entire magazine, and he said monthly, and we were just like, let's do it and see what happens. But it was 16 pages. There was no advertising. It was just like a souped up program magazine with color pictures on the cover that we could sell at the matches. And that was the format for the first 3 or 4 issues. And then they came to me and said, well, now the problem is we're selling no wrestling newses in the territory because everybody's buying your magazine. So for the same price, we will print you an entire full-size magazine if we can put our advertising in it. So I got they got 15 pages of advertising or whatever, and I got an extra 15 pages or whatever of content. So it made it harder to fill up, but I got a magazine that was more than twice as big that we could sell for the same price. And I did 2 of those, and then the number 6 was the last one because I was in the business. I couldn't put my name on it, and I didn't have time for it now.
Now, it is my understanding that you will be taking the pictures and writing the copy. You, of course, can use anything we already have on file, including color separations. Our job would be to set the type, do the actual layouts, and have them printed and shipped to you. You, of course, will have to work with me so we get on a set schedule and also supply me with a rough dummy of how you want each issue to look. From what you have told me over the phone, it is my understanding that this publication is being done with the permission of the Jarretts, that it will be sold alongside Jerry Lawler's program, which you do anyways, and also our two magazines, the Wrestling News and the Rings Wrestling Magazine. I don't want to cut in on any of the deals already existing or cut anyone out of money they are already earning. I'm particularly interested in seeing that Pat Malone gets a fair shake on this deal, as he's been very loyal to us and has always sold a lot of our two magazines. Was that something that came up? Well, plug in your book, Heroes and Friends, Cornette's Collectibles at JimCornette.com. You talk about Pat Malone, the Green Shadow. Here he is referenced here. Was there any heat around this period of time with the idea that you were going to do this?
Well, no. And at that time, Pat was getting the magazines, but he wasn't in charge of actually physically selling them in Louisville, because that was the deal Teenie had with whoever was her driver, whether it be Sammy Malone or whether it be her niece Donna or earlier on Petey Welch or whoever it was, is that they would get the percentage of selling the merchandise off the stand, and they had the Wrestling News there along with all the pictures and everything else. So Pat really just, came up and he got paid to come up and watch the locker room door. Pat was so important and had such history with, and he's the guy, as in my book, The Case is Made, he built the Tennessee territory when they first started. So he was mostly selling his magazines down at the Memphis end, where he went also. And eventually, to be honest, they just stopped selling as many of the Wrestling Newses, because Wrestling News was only partially about Tennessee, whereas my magazine was all about it. But in a way, everybody was still making money, because Ms. Jarrett I wasn't selling them on my own. She was buying the magazines from me and then turning around and selling them at the merchandise stand, to then turn around and add money to Louisville Wrestling Enterprises that was paying Pat to come and watch the fucking door. You see where I'm going with this?
Yeah.
It wasn't enough that everybody was like, well, you're fucking me. It's like, well, this guy's going to make $100 over here. We're going to make $150 over here. It's still going.
Remember, we had an issue we encountered in the Pat Malone file where, I forget if it was Dick Steinborn, it was someone, where Pat Malone had like the Tennessee rights and they wanted to sell it in Knoxville.
Yes, Steinborn was working for the Knoxville office and taking pictures for them after he had retired from the ring. And, well, but wait, Pat's our Tennessee representative. Well, it's a completely different territory. Pat doesn't go to Knoxville. So they had to work those things out.
Here I have what I guess, I don't know if you had ever received this. Here's what they sent to the House of Print. Championship Wrestling #1 magazine covers, same size as Madison Square Garden program. 1,025 run nets to 2,050 covers, delivered to House of Print. Use blue type on yellow background. House of Print. Enclosed are the inside pages for Wrestling Magazine #1. 16-page inside section on white, 50-pound paper. Black ink only. To be stapled and trimmed inside covers, you should already have received from Media Graphics. Print run, 2,050. 25 copies to me. 2,025 copies by United Parcel Service as soon as you can to Mr. Jim Cornette in Kentucky. And it has your address here.
Boy, it was a whole lot easier communicating with the printer back in those days. Yeah, just use some black ink. It'll be all right. I'm getting shit back and forth from our printers. I don't even know how to fucking read it.
If I go back to the very beginning, I wonder what the very first thing in here is. Again, it's a big file. We can't go through everything, obviously.
We can't do this all day.
This is not dated, but the letter after it says November 22nd, 76.
Oh, good Lord.
So this is 76. Dear Mr. Keitzer, a short time ago I wrote you about contributing some photos to the Wrestling News NWA East Edition. You replied that contributing photographers usually get a free classified ad. It took me a little while to get together a list, prices, etc., so I could sell by mail, but I am ready now. so I've enclosed some sample photos as you requested. They are all from the same card, as we recently had a spectacular here. I have also enclosed my classified ad. I hope you find my work good enough to be used in your magazine. But because I have never contributed photos to a magazine before, I need the answers to 3 questions. I hope it will not take...
I can't remember what these questions are.
I hope it will not take too much of your time. Question 1. I am under the impression that when I contribute photos to your magazine, they are still mine to sell, or do as I want with. I do not mean the actual prints, but the picture in general. Is this correct? Question 2. How often should I contribute a photo or an article? And question 3. Will you return any unwanted photos or keep them for future use? I thank you very much for the inconvenience this letter causes. Such an inconvenient letter.
I'm 15. I'm trying to fucking act professional.
I thank you very much for any inconvenience this letter causes you, and I hope my photos are worth the trouble. Thank you again, sincerely, Jim Cornette, and also...
And remember, we talked about this a few shows back, because they didn't pay. They gave the classified ad, but then the boys didn't want their pictures being sold, just in a rogue fashion. And so Miss Jarrett called him and said, just send him some money. Don't do the classified ad. And it would have been a nightmare, not only getting that list together, but then filling all those individual orders and individual prints and everything. Had been chaos. She said, send him $25.
I thought you might need the full card and results that go with the photo story I have enclosed, so here it is. July 11th, Louisville Gardens. Southern Heavyweight Championship match, Jerry Lawler with Sam Bass, the champion, versus Gorgeous George Jr., the challenger.
That was 2 weeks before Sam Bass got killed.
Wow. NWA World Tag Team Championship bout, the Assassins, the champions, versus Tojo Yamamoto and Jerry Jarrett. Who were the Assassins?
Yeah, and the Assassins were, I don't know. I think that was the 2 guys that were the masked superstars for Nick Goulas at that time, because they weren't the real Assassins. They weren't even Roger Smith and Donnie Bass. They were 2 guys that they put some belts on from the drawer of the office to have an all-title match card.
For the NWA Mid-America Championship, and I have the results here at the bottom too, Roger Nature Boy Kirby, the champion, versus Cowboy Frankie Lane, the challenger.
And those guys were working primarily at that point for Nick's, the Birmingham end of the territory, Nashville, Chattanooga, and Birmingham. But they came in because, again, that was Nick's belt, the Mid-America belt. And as I recall, Frankie Lane was a tremendous worker, and Roger Kirby was great. They had a fucking hell of a match.
How much did you get to see Roger Kirby?
Just that year. In person, I've seen a few tapes here and there, but he was in both ends of the Tennessee territory that year, and he was very good, very nice high backdrops, good physique for the time, very poised.
Jim, we have a return grudge NWA Southern Tag Championship bout. Phil Hickerson and Dennis Condrey, the champions, versus the former champions Bill Dundee and Tommy Rich.
And that one was good. That was the star of the night, because Hickerson and Condrey were tremendous, and Dundee at that point, that was his first babyface break. He was working his fucking ass off.
For the NWA Southern Junior Heavyweight Championship, the champion Roy Lee Welch versus the challenger Tommy Gilbert.
And again, that was another made-up belt, because the Southern Heavyweight title until 1974 was the Southern Junior Heavyweight title. That went back to the origination of the belt in 1952. But when Lawler got it, the matches with Fargo were still billed for the Southern Junior Heavyweight title. But then here's the Mongolian Stomper, right? And here's these other guys challenging for it, and they just slowly transitioned to the Southern Heavyweight title. So again, this one was just another one. So they wanted 6 title matches. And I think Roy Lee was in Knoxville at that point.
Well, we'll get to that in a second when we go through the results. The final match here, Jim. For the ladies' NWA US Championship, the champion Sylvia
Hackney
versus the challenger Dawn Marie.
I remember it, yeah. And I got a nice little pose of Sylvia Hackney, as I recall. Yeah, it just...
Was that a real championship anywhere?
No.
Well, here are the results you listed. Lawler versus George, belt held up. Tojo and Jarrett over the Assassins DQ. Lane over Kirby on DQ. Hickerson and Condrey over Dundee and Rich on DQ. Gilbert versus Welch. Welch didn't get there.
Yeah.
And then Hackney over Marie. That's a lot of DQs. And they held up the belt. What was the reason for such a big card? July 11th in Louisville.
They had run the week before on July 4th. And you would think that would be the super spectacular, but every once in a while, it was a thing that Nick would do when, there were a couple matches there. Hickerson and Condrey against Dundee and Rich, and Lawler against Gorgeous George, based on the television and the things they had going on. That was, two good main events. But Nick would just do something every once in a while where if he didn't have faith in the card or whatever the case, Night of Champions, super spectacular. And he would literally do what he just did there, make up a bunch of titles and have somebody come that weren't regularly defended in the territory, and have somebody come in from just the neighboring area to defend it. And he thought that was going to be the big deal. 6 title matches. But to be honest, I was there in the crowd. The people didn't care about the title matches that they didn't know the title. They just treated them like regular matches. Maybe that's a lesson Tony Khan could learn.
Yeah, let's see if he learns it. This literally has like every envelope you sent a letter in. It's insane like how much stuff is here. Some stuff he typed on the back of your letter. His response. First, got your letter. This is April 7th, 77. Glad to hear you are satisfied with everything. I have your negatives of Rocky Johnson, and as soon as I am done with them for cover of issue number 42, I'll be returning them. I've enclosed a print you sent me of Harley Race, but I would like to borrow the negatives for use in color in issue 43. There is no rush on this, but I would like to use it. If possible, can you send that to me? When you send the negative, send the print along back as well so I can use it. I hope that covers everything for right now. Thank you for your great work. I am rushed as usual and really appreciate your help, Norman Keitzer. That's very nice. And then I have this letter here, and we'll probably end with this, if not the thing right after it. Not dated. Dear Mr. Keitzer, as I know you are busy, I will make this short. 2 things have arisen I must inform you of. Number 1 being that Miss Christine Jarrett asked me to send you a negative of Rocky Johnson with his Southern title belt, with his Southern title belt to use on the cover of the next Wrestling News NWA East edition. Or, if that cover is already set, then the issue after that. If it is at all possible, I'd like the negative back, even if it takes 3 or 4 months, just as long as I get it eventually. The second thing is, due to several circumstances which have come up, I will not be able to sell any photos through the mail for the time being.
Yeah, there you go.
So if it is possible, I would like to have my ad drop from the magazine until this is cleared up. However, I would still like you to use my photos, even without the ad, if this is acceptable to you. I expect to send you some photos of Harley Race with the NWA World title belt very soon. I realize I have been deluging you. I have been deluging you
I've been delusional.
I've been deluging you with photos, but I feel these are more important than the others, as it may enable you to get the jump on all the other wrestling publications in the matter of Race winning the belt. Thank you for your time. Forgot one thing. I think either negative number 11 or 13 would be best to use. Thank you. Signed, sincerely, Jim Cornette. Well, there it is.
Your friend.
How do you like this look back at your past?
The trip down memory lane. I'm just trying to remember now whether or not that they ever sent me that negative back of Rocky Johnson with the Southern title belt.
If not, I may have it here. Hold on, what is this?
Well, if you do, I'm going to sue you.
Here's a photo of you, Jim Cornette, WFIA Photography Award, posed.
Oh, boy.
In parentheses, posed. Winner 1977. And the post shot is you standing there holding the award.
Yeah. They had to label it just to make sure you know he's posing.
Well, you know, Jim, this look back at memory lane, of course, from the files. We'll have more of this in the future, and of course, more of the Pfeffer files that Jim has gone and researched at Notre Dame. But all this research, all this looking back, could make someone tired.
Well, it could. It could make you tired enough where you wanted to go to bed and go to sleep. But what would you do, Brian, if you wanted to go to bed and go to sleep, but you had no bed to go to? Maybe you got a bed frame, but you don't have anything to put in it. You don't have that big, giant marshmallow-like thing that you can just fall back in and like floating on a cloud. That's where our friends at Helix Sleep come in. Because, folks, they make things... If you tried to use it like a marshmallow, it would take you months to eat one of these mattresses. Brian, I think you'll say that's a fair statement. I'm not in any way engaging in hyperbole that it would take you 3 or 4 months to eat one of these mattresses.
They are not edible. Let's not think of them as marshmallows. I don't think that's...
Well, that's another reason it would take you a long time.
It may take you longer than that because it's not food, and you wouldn't be able to... Whoa, what's that? It's Helix!
I'm just saying, I'm not suggesting you try to eat it. I'm saying it would take you a long time, but it's like laying on a giant marshmallow or possibly a cloud. Maybe it would. How long would it take you to snort a cloud? It would take you months. Well, you can't snort a mattress, but you could lay on it. Folks, right now you're probably thinking to yourself, how do I get the Helix mattress?
What you do? So many things, yes.
Yes, wondering things. You go to helixsleep.com. That's HELIX sleep.com. And you pick out the mattress that you want. They'll help you. They'll make suggestions depending on how you like to lay around the house, how you like to sleep, what kind of position, whether you're a corpulent individual or real bony. You know, they've even got a special mattress for people with bony knees. You've seen them.
I do not know that because I do not believe that is true, but they have great mattresses for everyone, no matter how much weight you have in your knees.
Or how many bones you have protruding from your sack of flesh. I'm telling you.
What are you telling me? Exactly.
I'm telling you that no matter how deformed or misshapen you are, you will find comfort on a Helix mattress some way or another. All you got to do is take the quiz, pick the one that's best for you. Do you sweat profusely when you sleep? Well, they've got ones that'll cool you down. Or if you're just a shivering, bone-chilled creature at night, they got things that'll heat you up. They got things that'll just do all kinds of things to you while you're asleep and don't know about it and won't have any memory of it. These mattresses, they'll treat you right. Whether you got snoring or back pain or sleep apnea or all these other things, you just dive onto a Helix mattress and it's like you've been put in suspended animation. Studies have shown that your cells actually grow at a slower rate while you're laying on a Helix mattress.
There are no studies
that could possibly help with aging.
Helix has not supplied us with any of these studies you quote here, and I know that you don't have any.
Well, I've been studying on it. I've been thinking about it. You know, if they made one of these mattresses that would slow down your cellular aging, then you could actually be younger.
You thinking about it is different than the declarative statement saying that it is indeed a thing.
Well, I'm studying on it. Where do other people's studies come from?
Listen, I know someone who studies all sorts of numbers all the time, and I think if you asked him or asked anyone else, if you asked people here at Last Matter, if you asked people at Castle Cornette who aren't on the line, they would tell you how much they love their Helix sleep mattress. We're probably going to be getting another one pretty soon here at the house because we love them so much.
Yes.
Helix sleep.
Well, that one guy you're talking about, people can't understand what the fuck he's saying to begin with. So anyway, go to helixsleep.com right now and use this special code helixsleep.com/JCE. helixsleep.com/JCE. The Labor Day sale has been extended. You're going to get 25% off site-wide, no matter how many of these mattresses you buy, the small ones, the big ones, the thick ones, the thin ones, the lovely ones, and the ones that are just a little homely. 25% off every single thing on the site. That's the Labor Day sale extended. HelixSleep.com/JCE. And I mean, boom, flat of your back you go, and you're just laying there. And they don't even have to strap you in. You won't want to get up. However, if you do want to be strapped in, they have a mattress for that also.
No, I'm going to try to get ahead of you here. They do not have that. What they have
got some handles on the side. You can slip the handcuffs in.
Mattresses for everyday people like you and me, folks. We all need a good night's sleep, no matter who you are, how you are, where you are. You need a good night's sleep. We can get you one with a great deal. Jim, that's the official. Let's wrap it up with the promo code and the link and nothing else.
I love everyday people and mattresses they sleep on at HelixSleep.com/JCE. 25% off site-wide. Use the code to save the money, or elsewise, fuck you. You'll pay full price.
Hey, great. I'm thrown off, but it's a great bed to throw yourself on. Helix Sleep. And with that, Jim, we have some questions.
We better. Let's hurry.
I've got a lot of questions.
Well, I ain't got many answers.